The next question is about our water bills. I would like to know when to expect a response. Will there be a final cleanup bill at the end of the year for residents who have only received 2 or 3 water bills as of September 1st instead of the usual 5? The end of the year is fast approaching, and I don't think it would be fair to spring this on people then. So there needs to be something communicated about this situation now. So again, when can residents expect an answer to this, and how will it be communicated, do you think?
Well, I'll make sure that we get an answer this week, and it'll be communicated by city staff, which
Okay.
means the clerk.
Perfect. Office hours. Will the current temporary office hours plan be in place indefinitely, or is there a plan to hire a deputy clerk so the office can be open and operate as it should to meet the needs of the residents? For example, was there a plan for today? Because I know the clerk is gone and Steve Heff doesn't work on Mondays, so was the office closed?
Yeah, the office was closed
Okay.
today. Mary was out of the area and Steve was out ill.
Well, Steve doesn't work on Mondays.
He will when he knows that Elizabeth is out.
Oh, you mean Mary?
Mary,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right, I wanted to know, because if I remember right, hiring a deputy clerk position was budgeted for 2022. So, we'd like to know an answer. Is this gonna be an indefinite, the 10 to 3, or by appointment, or?
You know, you can
I
answer.
don't know.
No, you don't?
No.
Okay.
Oh, no, okay.
Well, I do know, and the answer is it's just temporary now.
Uh-huh.
Once Mary says she's through the backlog, then she
Okay.
plans on going back to normal hours, 7:30 to 5,
Okay.
that area.
Okay.
You know, is she hoping by October 1st? Of course, but we don't know because
Okay.
she seems to be finding other issues.
Uh-huh.
But she'll get to that point. The goal is definitely in the near future,
Okay.
go back to normal hours.
Might be good to put that on the website or someplace
Okay.
where people can stay on top of that, because it's really, we feel like we deserve better service from City Hall and better communication from you guys.
Okay.
So, okay, last thing is the community center. The Taylor's Falls Concerned Citizens Group has organized a community center cleanup day tentatively set for Saturday, October 8th from 9 to noon. We're hoping the community center is not in use that day. We're waiting to hear back from Steve on that.
What's the date?
October 8th.
Thank you.
We'd like to give this historical gem of ours some TLC by gently power washing the outside of the building. We'll bring the equipment, power wash sidewalks in the back porch, trim shrubs and bushes, tack up the falling string lights, and possibly wash windows. And then we'd like to have a potluck afterward. So hoping there's no objection to doing this.
I'll check with Steve to make sure he manages the community center, to make sure that the
Okay.
8th of October is
Oh,
available.
I emailed him too.
Okay, good.
So-
I'll follow up with him tomorrow.
Okay, and I think we'll check to see maybe if the historical society members could join us, and someone even said maybe possibly the fire department
Okay.
could borrow a ladder to get up high. So, okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Okay, that's all the public forum that we have for this evening. We've got a big agenda here, 12 items. I'm just gonna stay on task because some of them will move through quickly. We'll take as much time as we need. The first item on the agenda is a land donation. Now, this has taken a little while to get to the council because it had to go through the city attorney's office. They looked at it, there were some issues with the property, not major issues, not financial issues, some ownership issues. That's been remedied, it has been corrected. It's been reviewed by the city attorney, so we now have a resolution before us. That resolution is listed as 220902, and it's provided by the city attorneys. It is recommending that we accept the property. I shouldn't say recommending. They're saying if you accept the property, there's no problems with the property. Go ahead. So comments on this, Larry?
I would accept the property. It's a nice nice chunk of land down there.
Talking to the microphone or they'll scold you.
Can you hear me all right?
Go ahead.
Well, I would recommend accepting the property.
Okay, thank you. And Ross?
Yeah, okay. I think it's great for the Lowell had given it to the city before he passed away. That's great, like saying addition, and he's always talked about it. It just took quite a while to get it finally done.
Troy?
Yeah, I don't have, I think it's great, I think we should be grateful for this. My packet says the city attorney will provide the resolution on Monday, I haven't seen a copy yet.
Oh, you don't have a copy?
No,
My apologies, I got a copy, they did not get distributed to anybody, so, the resolution was provided. Let me just pass it down so everybody can take a look at it. It's pretty simple. It does, in there, accept the property, it does say thank yous for the property. Again, this came from the Lowell Burton Nelson Estate. The property is actually located down by the Cassie's gas station and our sewer lift station. So it's that empty area. We've mowed it for many years.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, well, thanks for asking for that. I don't know why they didn't distribute it. So I'll make sure everybody's had an opportunity to look at the resolution. Again, it's a pretty simple one. Okay, resolution look at everybody? Okay, then I'm gonna call for a motion to approve resolution 220902, accepting this generous gift of property from the Lowell Burton Nelson Estate with thank yous. So motion to approve.
So moved.
By Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
By Larry, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're on to the Heritage Park bathroom. And again, this project is complete. What I wanted to do was give a summary of everything because there's one item on here that the council has not approved officially in our capacity. We did, however, approve that we budget up to and not to exceed $54,000. So I've had some people say you don't need to bring each individual item back. I disagree with that. We have approved the building and the shipping, which is listed. We have the excavation for the holding tanks, which we approved. The one thing that we have not approved at the council yet was the cost of the 88 concrete slab. Now, Mike was not able to get bids or proposals for this until the building was actually put into place because they weren't sure what size the concrete slab was going to be. Now, once the building showed up, unfortunately, it showed up a few days after our council meeting, and so we had Mike in a position to scramble a little bit to try to get 3 proposals. He was only able to get 1 proposal, and that was from Lawrence Creek Contracting. Now, we were told by Jeremy that the amount would not exceed $5,500, and so the vice mayor and myself field approved this because we had some concerns about health, safety, and welfare. Without that slab poured in there, it is not handicap accessible. We did have a fence put around it to kind of protect it and people from accessing it before it was officially open. And that's the vandalism that I talked about. Somebody just tore all the fence down. And I'm not too sure if it was somebody truly vandalizing it or if they needed to use the bathroom really badly. I don't know. But what we're looking at is Jeremy was working on Mulberry Street. He was close, within 2 blocks. He was able to get the slab poured the following week, the middle of the week after the building was set into place on a Friday. And so just to make sure we're transparent, we put everything in the open. I'm gonna look for us to approve that $5,200, which is less than what Jeremy told us. That puts the total cost of the project at $53,090, which puts us $910 under budget. So with that, I'm gonna ask for some comments. Ross, anything on this?
No, like I say, we didn't know what the concrete slab would be. We needed it for ADA access, had to be done. So we got it done as quickly as possible. And like I say, we're obviously still under budget, so the whole project came out great, I think, so.
Excellent, thank you. Troy, comments?
Yes, I'm all in favor of course, making it ADA accessible. So my question is, this vote tonight is just approving what's been field approved, the 5,200.
Correct. We want to make sure, kind of like you and I did with the tires for the fire truck.
Right.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. It's clean up, so. Okay, sounds good. Larry, comments?
well, it has to be ADA compliant, and so we did what we had to do, and the project is complete and looks great.
Excellent, thank you. So with that, I'm going to call for a motion to approve the payment. It is to Lawrence Creek Contracting for $5,200. It is for the ADA concrete slab that was paid, or was the concrete slab, and it will be paid for from our general fund. So motion to approve.
So moved.
By Larry, do I have a second?
Second.
From Ross, further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now now we're on to the next item under old business. This is the final bill. This is from Joan Wadey. We had already approved a bill several months ago for $3,060. I thought we were lucking out and that was the total bill, but unfortunately that's not the case. The entire packet of information is before you with all of the breakdown. You'll notice that some of the information is blank as far as who Joan Quady spoke to, and that has to do with privacy, data privacy. She cannot list it. If she called somebody, they said, I don't want to talk. If they said, don't list my name, whatever, they can't be listed, and so that's why a lot of those are blank. But the total amount for this entire investigation, $18,156. We approved $3,060. That means we have a balance due of $15,096. So I'll find out how everybody feels about that. I'll start with Ross. Comments on this?
Well, it was required by state law, we had to do it. That's what the bill ended up being, so, I think we should probably take it out of administrative. I think there's enough in there.
Okay, are you talking about we had funds that were allocated for a deputy clerk?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, it's kind of what I thought, because all the other funds are accounted for.
Yep.
All right. Anything else, Ross?
No, I mean, like I say, it was required by law, so it's state statute.
Okay, Larry, comments?
Yeah, same thing. It's unfortunate, but we had to comply with state statutes and investigate the data breach. And, you know, these things don't come cheap, so.
Obviously not. Comments, Troy?
Yeah, I've got a couple comments, a
Good.
couple questions. I was hoping the attorney would be here, but he wasn't coming for this purpose anyway. And I'm not sure that these questions can be answered, but I would like to ask them anyway.
Sure.
And just get them out in the open. Thank you for clarifying that $3,060 was approved on May 9th. We've already approved that.
Yep.
It did get included in this packet,
Yep.
so I was kind of confused as, you know.
The billing is
why it was
really
there.
confusing.
Right. There's a bill for $120 or $102 right at the end on June 30th. All it says is investigation data practices. I guess, I'm not sure what that is. We probably won't find out. It's small in comparison to everything else.
We can still ask and get you an answer.
That'd be great.
Sure.
That'd be great. I had some questions as far as the charges, the individual charges that we went through. I had some questions on the security footage. I guess I'll start with that. On May 3rd, 22, there was a $425 charge for the review of all security footage. If these questions could go forward, that'd be great. I'm wondering if that is the security footage that was removed from City Hall by a member of this council on January 6th, 2022. And then I was wondering when that security footage was reviewed, if there was any mention of a member of this council removing a laptop or any documents from City Hall on August 13th, 2021.
Okay.
I
Is
know
somebody,
that wasn't
is
the
somebody
focus.
missing? Sorry, is somebody missing a laptop?
No,
Okay.
I'm asking if there's any footage, security
Okay.
footage of that,
Okay.
of that happening.
Okay.
I know that was not the focus of this data breach investigation,
Mhm.
but I did consider a data breach and I wanted to bring them up.
Sure.
There was a email, we were charged for an email to Michelle Soldo. That was on March 24th, over the results of her investigation. I'm just wondering if something was missing. From what I understood, Soldo just turned over her investigation, the findings to the, to this attorney, is that correct? I'm just wondering about the communication, because we were charged for that. We actually had, the city is being charged a total of over $918 by Barna, Guzzi, and Steffen, and I'm guessing that's where this check is going, correct?
Yes.
It is, okay, it's not going to the attorney.
No.
And that was a combination of conversations with the city attorney, Chad Lemons, Michelle Soldo, the client, and I'm not sure who the client is, but that's what one of the billing is the client, and then Julie Fleming Wolf. From my understanding, we've already paid some of these people, okay? We paid the city attorney,
Mhm.
right? We paid them on a monthly basis.
Mhm.
We paid Michelle Soldo $12,000,
Mhm.
and Julie Fleming Wolf, I believe, is paid by League of Minnesota Cities. She's our representative.
Correct. Yep.
So the only thing I wanted to point out is that we are paying Barna, Guzzi, and Stefan to communicate with people that we already paid.
So, but I don't think that we're paying them, I think that it's Joan Quady charging for her time spent with them.
For these people, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's-
discussion,
All it says
Okay.
is we're being charged different for these people, the city
Okay.
attorney, Chad Lemons.
we'll check.
So my point is that we're paying Barna, Guzzi, and Stefan
Mhm.
to communicate with people we've already paid for the same investigation.
They would have to get paid for their time, I assume.
Right, I
Yeah,
understand.
so,
I'm
but you're
just
saying there's, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Then there was a reference to LC2 in the billing. Page 22, I wanna know who LC2 is. They billed the city $187. I don't know if that's legal counsel 2 or what, but they were in charge of investigating the Data Practices Act and what that states regarding the private data and elected officials. So I'm wondering if they found out if, in that investigation, is that where they reached the result on whether the mayor was a public official or an employee?
No
That
idea.
would be my question.
Okay. All right,
I was opposed to the data breach investigation before, that's no surprise.
Yep.
I'm gonna be opposed to this as well.
sure.
I think if the personnel liaisons would have addressed the concerns of the employee in 2021, we wouldn't be having to pay this total $800 or $18,000 in 2022. And then I'm really looking for someone to convince me that this whole data breach investigation just isn't an attempt by this current administration, who'll soon be leaving office, to just line the pockets of some attorneys that they've been working with for a long time. And that includes Chad Lemons. So,
Okay,
that's all I wanted to say on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, so with that, everybody else has said we gotta pay the bill, except for one. So I'll call for a motion then to approve the invoice. It is from Barna, Guzzi, and Stefan. It is for the alleged data breach investigation. It was performed by Joan Quady. It is for the amount of $15,096, and it is paid for from, according to Ross, our administrative funds. So motion to approve
So moved.
by Larry, I have a second by Ross. Those in favor? Aye, opposed?
Opposed?
That motion is approved, 3-1. So I'm on to the next area. This is our downtown commercial property. We have Amy in the audience. Thank you for coming here this evening. We honestly, you can join us, please. We honestly don't have a whole lot of information. And, you know, I reached out to the city attorneys just to say, well, what's going on? As the council probably knows, the deadline for closing was September 1st.
Yep.
2022, and so thank you for coming this evening. I know the council has some options. We could, you know, do nothing. We could extend the closing period, but with that, it'd have to be upon your request, or we could say, that's enough time. We're going to direct the city attorney to draft a letter to send to you that says you're in, you
Default.
have, yeah, thank you.
Yep.
And that would give you, 30 more days after the receipt of the letter from the attorney.
I
So,
sure would.
those are the options. So Amy, welcome.
Thank you.
So, go ahead. You want to bring us up to date on what's going on, where you're at, what
Would you
you
like
want
to
us
know
to
what's
do?
I have been thinking about this for a while, about how I would like to approach this with you, which is why I didn't bring it up, because I know then you have to have so many days to get me on the agenda, and this way I just automatically got on the agenda, so that was great. I do apologize for a lack of communication. We have been working very hard in the background. I'm sure you've seen some of what we have started. We are working on the process with Steve, which has been a little challenging, getting communication back and forth and getting our civil engineers what they need. So many things in this project have taken longer than I anticipated. Additionally, this is like completely personal, but my husband and I are building a house our own selves down on Wild Mountain Road. And we're also behind schedule there, and we have a very hard push to get this thing completed before November, so we can move here from Maple Grove. So for the last month, I have been physically building a house with my hands, and that has not left too much time for making phone calls to investors. So I am actively working on fundraising for the project. My architects are working very hard with civil engineering and going back and forth with what you guys need. So we are acting as if everything is moving forward, and it will, and I just have not had enough time to secure all of the financing and get through all of the process that needs to get done. So with that, I sure would love an extension.
Okay,
I have a significant amount of my personal funds invested in this project, which is property specific, as you know, and do intend to see this through however long it takes.
okay, and so I hear you saying you would like an extension, what are we looking at? October first, are we looking at November first, December first, 2024, what are we looking at?
Well, I sure would hope not 2024. I do have some ideas. I don't know if you want me to just give you my ideas right here, but,
Well,
or
I
if
guess
that's
what
like
we're
a
looking at,
conversation
we're
for
looking at
later.
right now is we're in default, so we have to
Right,
deal with the
you have to
default
deal with the
situation.
default, right, so
Exactly.
that's kind of where I would say, I would love it if I could have an extension through the end of the year, December 31st.
Okay.
Perhaps you wanna make that a day that's a little more convenient for city council meetings, should I need to do some city council meeting follow-up? So like not a holiday, so maybe like, I don't know, January 12th or something. But yes, I would like an extension, please.
Okay, so I heard two dates for me, I heard December 31st
Well, I'm
and
just
January 12th.
thinking you guys are like the first Monday of the month, and that's a holiday, and it's the holidays, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm asking what would be easier for you guys.
The first meeting in January would probably be, well, they would have their organizational meeting, and it might be the first Monday in January, don't know, because there'll be a new administration.
Ah,
And it could be, it has to be no later than the second Monday in January, has to be, so.
and I will let you know that it is my intention to close on the land as soon as possible. So I am working on getting that portion of it.
So if you close on the land, that's what takes the default out of the picture.
Yes,
Then you go through the normal process of submitting plans to the planning commissions, they
We're
have
already
their,
working on that.
all that good stuff, so. But that doesn't have to happen at the same time you close on the property.
correct.
It can.
Yep.
So what would you like from us for an extension? You tell
Someone
us,
have a
and
calendar?
I'll see what the council wants to do.
I don't have a calendar in front of me.
Well, it might be best for you to ask for an extension before the end of the year with the current administration in place.
So the fourth Monday of December would be our last meeting of this year.
Which is what day?
I'm trying to find a calendar. Does anybody have a
And
calendar?
the new administration takes over January 1st, is that how
They
it
will
works?
take over once they're sworn in at their first meeting, which is their organizational meeting in January. When they call it is up to them.
I see.
It can be no earlier than the first Monday in January, but no later than the second Monday of January. They have to.
I do have a question for Councilman Julian. Why do you suggest it would be best for her to request this extension with this council other than?
Well, I think it would speed things up a little bit, you know, and make it a little more, important to Amy to get this done.
It's important to me to get this done.
It is.
It's important to us too.
Okay.
Anybody have a smartphone with a calendar?
December 26th is your fourth.
Thank you. Oh, look at you with the paper calendar. December 26th would be the last meeting of the year,
Okay,
okay?
December 26th, so you're asking for an extension until December 26th. All right. Now, with that, I'm gonna go to the council, see how they feel about the extension. So, Ross, I'll start with you, since you're the vice mayor. Thoughts on this, concerns? Had enough time? Wanna give her the extension? Wanna do nothing? Sorry, you're writing.
I think Amy's got so much time and money invested in it that December 26th is fine with me.
Okay. Troy?
Can I suggest December 12th, since that would be our first meeting of be our first meeting opportunity?
Okay.
Okay. Other than that,
December the 12th?
my December
Yeah.
12th, yeah.
So are you gonna say December 12th and then vote no?
Yes, that's
Are you?
correct. I think Amy knew that already.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay.
Thanks,
So,
Troy.
Larry, I heard him say December 26th. What did you say? December 26th?
is fine. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm fine with December 26th. I'm fine with the extension, so.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna call for a motion then to approve the extension for the closing date for the commercial property It is between the city of Taylor's Falls and Amy Dills LLC, and that closing date will be set for December 26th of 2022, and we will notify our city attorney to draft the language so that we can do the signatures for that.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'm getting a face from the crowd.
so do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
From Larry, do I have a second?
Second,
From Ross, further discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
So that motion carries 3-1.
Thank
You
you.
have an extension. Hopefully it's the last time, nothing personal, but
I
hopefully,
sure hope so.
hopefully you got things moving forward by then. Okay, so I'm on to new business. We have a presentation. This is from Dimitri, and is it, I'll never pronounce it correctly.
Tomasovich,
Thank you.
anytime.
Please, if you would join us, we understand you're here this evening to update us on the Osceola Bridge replacement. Councilmember Larry Julie Pine is our liaison for the Highway 8 project, so I know he's involved in the process. Also, I know that the press had a wonderful article in the paper last week, talking about the Highway 243 Osceola Bridge project. So some of this that you're showing us might be a repeat, but go right ahead. It's all yours, and thank you for your time.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor, council members, and folks in the audience, thanks for having me out to provide an update on the Osceola Bridge project. I have a two-part goal today, is provide you with an update on the project and also take any input or consideration as we move forward with project development. I did set some extra copies here on the chair for those that are interested to pay attention. I apologize, I had about an extra 10 copies, I don't know that everyone will get one. I also see that you have a full agenda, so I will try to stick to the facts or the key points of the project and allow some time for questions. But there is quite a bit to share, so I really have to stick to the key points here. So my name is Dimitri Tomasovich. I'm the East Area Project Manager. I'm on page 2. And Mark Bucker, he's our WSDOT representative. As if you know the area, this is a two-state project that connects Minnesota and Wisconsin in the village of Osceola. My goal of today's meeting is to provide an update about the project, what the needs of the project are, the options that are still under consideration, and really the process that we're following. And the goal of the packet is really to have something left after today that if you have questions, you can look at this. I can also send the presentation and any follow-ups. So we'll have some time for questions. On page 4, the Osceola Bridge project is what this is about. It's 1.5 miles long. It carries about 5,300 vehicles per day, so a little bit less traffic than your Taylor Falls Bridge here. I think it's probably closer to 14,000 vehicles per day across this bridge. There's two 12-foot lanes, very narrow shoulders. There's two speeds, one on Minnesota, which is 45 and 35 miles per hour on the Wisconsin side. The bridge was built in 1953, and the last redeck project was in 2017. For those that are not familiar with the area, we're in a fairly environmentally sensitive area, pretty tight constraints both on the Minnesota and the Wisconsin side. From an environmental standpoint, we're looking at a project from Highway 95 to Highway 35 intersection in Wisconsin. But the main project is the bridge itself, but environmentally we're going to study the logical termini, which is two intersections. Moving on to page 6, really the needs of the projects, they identify the transportation problems that are out there. And the primary need of the project is essentially bridge condition as it's reaching its useful service life. Through public process, through working with some of the local agency, we've also identified that there's a lack of pedestrian connectivity across the bridge. So with project study, we're looking at an opportunity to provide that pedestrian connectivity. There's quite a few additional considerations listed. One, as I mentioned, very environmentally sensitive project. Something of interest to the city here is bridge traffic during construction. River navigation is a big thing. 2 states worth of permitting agencies and federal agencies. And so there's other considerations in the area like the wayside arrest, the emergency pull-up on the Wisconsin side. So the ultimate purpose of the project is to connect the 2 states, maintain bike-to-ped connectivity, or evaluate that option across the border bridge. So it's very important that I focus on the project process. As you mentioned, it's recently been in the paper a few times. There's a lot of questions about the alternatives that are still being evaluated. MnDOT and WSDOT are following a 3-step process, with each process getting progressively more detailed in terms of evaluation and engineering. And I'll get into each one of these steps here as we move forward. The alternative evaluation criteria, the purpose and need of the project, that was also a public process, and the results of those two published documents are also posted on the website as well. So let me get into a little bit about the step 1 through 3 process and where we're at today. First off, in step 1, the very first thing we do is we identify reasonable alternatives that would be considered for evaluation. In this case, the graphic on page 8 illustrates 8 alternatives, which includes the no-build alternative that the project is compared against. The 8 alternatives were then screened through step 1, which ultimately looks, do any of these meet the actual purpose and need of the project, and are they reasonable alternatives to move forward? Through step 1, 4 were dismissed. That includes, we evaluated some tunnel opportunities. Those showed too great of an impact, and where you would have to daylight those tunnels to move those forward in the process. Also the maintenance and some considerable security considerations related to tunnels. They're also not as common one. That one we get a question a lot, so I want to focus a little bit. The other big one that was eliminated is the actual reuse of the existing bridge piers. So the option we looked at, what if you just took off the top of the bridge, reutilize the existing bridge piers, and then simply replace that superstructure on top. We did the engineering behind that, and that showed that that was not a reasonable alternative to sustain the engineering behind the replacing just the superstructure. So the piers didn't have enough capacity to withstand putting a brand new superstructure with a wider structure on top. So that one we get a lot of questions on the opportunity to just simply reuse the piers, and that did not pass the analysis from a structural standpoint. So the remaining concepts moving forward, you may have seen in the paper, are 3 build alternatives that move to step 2, is the existing alignment, so replacing a bridge right where it is today, something to the north of the existing alignment, and something to the south. And I have a couple of pictures in this presentation that I'll share. On page 10, I kind of describe a little bit the step 2 process. This is where we go just beyond, does it simply meet the purpose and need of the project? We essentially, the easiest way to describe it is kind of look at it at a 10,000 foot level, and we develop a typical section, so that footprint, what is that footprint that we want to run across the bridge area? In this case, you'll see on page 11, we essentially looked at 2 12-foot lanes, kind of a rural design of 8-foot shoulders, and a bike and ped facility across the bridge. And we said this would be our footprint that we evaluate in step 2 for impact considerations across the bridge and on both Minnesota and Wisconsin side. I should note the trail is not necessarily committed to one side or the other. It was really just placed on one side to get that overall footprint of the project. That is a question we get often. On page 12, at that step 2 level, you'll see the unexisting alignment alternative. And what I'll focus on here, on the Minnesota side, there's considerations related to the existing wayside rest, the National Park Service boat landing in the area, the actual river itself. On the Wisconsin side, and both Minnesota and Wisconsin, but particularly on the Wisconsin side, the area highlighted kind of that orange, that's anything that would be considered a bluff. Anything that's steeper than a certain grade would be considered bluff impacts. The orange doesn't depict the impacts, but anything to that area would be considered a potential area of impact to a bluff. The section in kind of green above the yellow roadway section there means that there's construction limits that would extend into that area. So ultimately what that means, on alignment, widening to accommodate a trail, accommodating those shoulders, we saw that there would be some encroachment to the north, to that Wilkie Glen area, that would likely require some impacts, maybe some retaining walls. And what you see in a cross section just below that alternative on page 13 is just some very minor widening. If you're looking at the road today, you have kind of the wall on the right side. There's a little bit of a hump before it drops off over to the creek. And because of the widening, there would be some cut into the hump on the left side. That's inching closer to the creek. Essentially, probably the least environmentally impactful, but it has its considerations related to traffic impacts and closures. The construction of on alignment, we would anticipate approximately a 2-year, 20 to 24 months construction period. which means that closure of the bridge and the detouring of the traffic. So it has its set of impacts related to this alternative. I'm gonna move on to the next two to kind of describe the challenges with all three alternatives, and then I'll really lead into the questions of where we're at. So, on page 14 is the north alignment, and what I mean by north alignment, if you look at page 14, there is a bridge, the existing bridge, you can kind of see its shadow, and we looked at what would happen if we slid the bridge just slightly to the north and then connected over to the Wisconsin side. Obviously, moving the bridge to the north shows more impacts to the Wilkie Glen area, which is the creek that runs along that area, and there's some walking trails and other things in that little hiking. It's very environmentally sensitive, very important to the village of Osceola, fairly large tourist attraction. So we did receive a lot of comments and questions about this particular alternative. On page 15, that cross section does a really nice job illustrating what it means to slide to the north. You can see the existing Highway 243 roadway section. Essentially, you're adding to the left, to the north, an entire section of roadway as you slide over. So that hump that the existing alignment took out just a little bit of would essentially remove that portion of the section to the north. And then what we looked at is there's a dashed line that kind of goes all the way down to the creek. Typically, when you build a roadway, you would run a grade to connect down to existing grade. Well, looking at that, even at this early level, we realized that we wouldn't want to take out the trail, take out the creek itself, or fill those sections of roadway. So even in the early stage, we said some type of retaining wall would likely be required. And that's what this image illustrates. As you slide to the north, there obviously will be widening towards that area, and some type of retaining wall along that Cascade Creek area and Cascade Trail area would be required. Jumping over to page 16 is our third alternative and our final build alternative still under consideration. And what this does is it moves the bridge slightly to the south. Again, on the Minnesota side, we would inch a little bit closer to the National Park Service and their boat landing. It's the busiest landing, I believe, along the St. Croix in this area, in this region for them. On the Wisconsin side, what really this means is as you slide to the left, that wall, that rock face wall along that area, we would have to cut into that rock face wall. The alternative would. This is really nicely illustrated on page 17, where it shows kind of the existing roadway, the proposed roadway, and what you see is kind of a dashed line of the existing bluff, and then some space where it says bluff cut. That would be approximately a 30-foot bluff cut into that rock face wall. When you make a cut like that, you can't just cut just the space you need. You also have to consider the vertical element and then maintain a certain grade up to that cut. And so therefore you see a representation of, instead of just a straight vertical cut, there would be some kind of a slope, a grade that would have to accommodate that. So really what the goal of these three at that step 2 at that 10,000 foot level is to plant a footprint on the page and to show what are the approximate impact consideration with each alternative. And what we really learned was that all three alternatives have their set of challenges. And we've heard the same back from the public. We've heard a lot of feedback about concerns of impact to the Wilkie Glen and the creek and the falls area. I'm sure to the city here, we've heard considerations about closure time frame and business impact or detour traffic. And we've also heard a lot of concerns environmentally of cutting into the bluff with the water tower on top. We have some historical caves in the area and then some endangered species consideration. So a very tight corridor from an engineering standpoint of evaluation. So where are we in the process and how are we doing an alternative evaluation? With the step 2 alternative, we reached out to the public, we presented the concepts. As I mentioned, we've got feedback on all three alternatives. From a permitting agency standpoint, there really wasn't one that stood out as I'll call a fatal flaw from a permitting standpoint, where any of the permitting agencies said that this alternative may not move forward because it will not be approved. So realizing that neither of the three alternatives really distinguished itself from being eliminated, MnDOT and WisDOT has moved all three alternatives for that detailed engineering evaluation. And what that means is, instead of that 10,000 foot level, we're now gonna look at it more of that 100 foot level. That includes having our geology staff out in the field evaluating the rock formations and what are the possibilities of a rock cut opportunity into the area. That will involve developing maybe a smaller typical section, and what I mean is evaluating the through lanes, the shoulder, and the trail width. Can we reduce that and reduce those impacts along the corridor? And really evaluating the impacts for that. And also understanding the more detailed social, economic, and environmental impacts with each alternative. So really, that's a really long way of explaining. We're gonna look at it in much more detail, try to reduce those impacts, and then compare the three against each other and see if one stands out from being selected as a preferred alternative. So that's really the next step, in the step 3, and in the step that we're in now. I also included a slide on page 20, just to, for this group, just to remind that future traffic management planning will be an important consideration. One of the biggest questions we get is, what is the anticipated detour route? How long does it take to get it on the bridge if you close a bridge like Osceola? So we did put on our website, the bridge has been closed before for project repairs, and the alternative routes are fairly known, which is a detour through Taylor's Falls, which is about a 15-minute drive between the two bridges, or a detour south, a detour to Highway 36 bridge, which that is about a 30-minute one-way trip. So we have that level of information posted. The detailed traffic management plan and analysis we would anticipate doing when we know a little bit more about the preferred selected alternative, the duration of traffic impacts, and what mitigation needs are needed to accommodate those level of traffic detour. I left out a fairly important detail. I talked about the on-alignment bridge closure is at 20 to 24 months. In our very high level evaluation, we thought if we build something offline, that'd be closer to 10 to 12 months. So essentially about half as long of a closure, but it would still take up both summers. You still need both those construction seasons. That's at that 10,000 foot level. Once the alternative is selected, a preferred alternative, we have a constructability review plan where we will evaluate what does it really take to build this bridge. We need to look at, there's really not a lot of working room. Do we need to work longer on the approaches? If the south alternative is the preferred, how long does it take to cut into that rock? And how long does that workmanship take? So that next phase will evaluate constructability and how long does it really take to build this bridge to better understand that impact as well. But at that step 2, we said 20 to 24 months for on alignment, 10 to 12 months on off alignment, but that's still to be refined and determined. The last slide I included here, schedule. A lot of questions we get, what's the timing on the project? Slide 21. And where we're at today, our goal is to identify a preferred alternative sometime into 2022, early 2023. So really, by the end of the year, early next year, our goal is to have that preferred alternative and actually start the detailed environmental assessment process of that preferred alternative. Final design and permitting would occur in 24 and 25. And then start of construction, the goal would be in 2026 with the exact duration to be determined, but likely a 2-year construction timeframe. So I introduced a lot of information very fast, knowing that you have a full agenda. So I thought the package, well, at least the information is there. I'm available for any questions, and I'm available for any questions now. And also any input in general that I need to take back for consideration as we can develop this project further.
Very good, thank you, Dimitri. So, Council, Larry, what kind of questions do you have? You heard the Highway 8 Task Force Liaison.
Well, my first question is, all 3 alternatives would include closing the bridge and detouring traffic?
Yes.
Okay. I had heard at one point that there was a consideration for a completely different site and leaving the bridge open, the old bridge open while they were building the new bridge. Was that ever a consideration?
There was an alternative considered of a new bridge completely in a brand new location. We evaluated that from twofold. One, a bridge would have a brand new impacts in other areas, so brand new environmental impacts. It would need new road infrastructure to connect to that bridge. And we also worked with some of the permitting agencies to understand if we were looking at new impacts at a new location, new in-river impacts, potential mussel impacts, that likely wasn't an alternative that would get permitted and therefore not move forward into the next step. And the current alternatives do look at a bridge off-site, but at some point you still have to construct the approaches and would require some bridge closure.
Okay, well, the other comment that I have is, you know, detouring through Taylor's Falls, we already have traffic headaches on high peak weekends. And actually it's every weekend during the summer. And, you know, detouring traffic, in addition to the current traffic flow, I think that'd be a gigantic nightmare for the city of Taylor's Falls and the effect on its businesses.
Thank you for that comment. What I'd like to highlight just a really quick is part of our process, we'll be doing a traffic management plan. So we're gonna wanna evaluate the amount of traffic, as I mentioned, just over 5,000 average daily traffic. We're gonna wanna evaluate what percentage of that is trucks. We're gonna evaluate what percentage of that traffic is gonna wanna go towards Taylor's Falls versus Highway 36. And then we're gonna wanna evaluate how traffic flows through the intersection today, which is designed to accommodate interstate traffic, versus are there any mitigation needs for the signal that's there today. So I think it's a very good comment, and I just wanted to let you know that part of our development process is to go through this traffic management planning, come back to the city, provide updates on where we're at with that, provide an amount that the project will be closed, and what the plan is from a traffic management standpoint. So it's a very good comment, thank you.
Excellent. Anything else, Larry?
No.
Okay, comments, Troy?
I have a question,
Yeah.
Dimitri. Have you ever driven through Taylor's Falls on a weekend in the summer?
I have.
What did you think? What was your experience?
Well, very scenic drive. I have driven across into Taylor's Falls, and I've also driven across to Wisconsin. I have some friends that have cabins along that area. I'd like to think went through the signal and didn't have very many problems. Maybe my timing was different, but I didn't run into
Morning or something?
I did drive through in the morning, but I'm aware of the intersection and the tourist attraction and the peak in the summer season.
I mean, I would guess some in your line of work, and first, before I forget, I wanna thank you for your enthusiasm, because I know one of your goals is to make sure the public is aware of what's going on and to inform them. And you've done a really good job tonight. I would think in your profession, if you came through here a couple times on a weekend, even during the fall, your head would be spinning on what can I do, what can we do to make this better? And we have that problem, we had that problem in Labor Day, we've had that problem a long time, and it's exponentially gonna get much worse when this construction starts. So I guess I would be curious as to anything that you might have in mind that you could help the city of Taylor's Falls with once this construction begins, because we do have 4 years. There must be something that can be done to facilitate traffic during this construction.
Well, I will note, I'm familiar with the challenging area of this particular intersection. You're coming down the hill from both Wisconsin and Minnesota, higher speed road. 2 gas stations, very tight corridor, very busy park entrance, and then also connecting to the street as you go to Highway 95. So from a geography standpoint, it's a fairly constrained area that I know since I've been in the East area, which has been a little over 8 years now, has come up with a set of challenges, especially during the Highway 8 project. Ryan Cunnington was my counterpart that worked on that project. And that had a little slightly different challenge. The intersection itself, I believe, was closed, and traffic had to be detoured, and a temporary traffic signal had to be put in place. And so the construction challenges and the traffic impacts during that project were a little bit different than the traffic impacts or the traffic changes with the Osceola Bridge closure, meaning the existing intersection, which has brand new concrete, has a fairly good infrastructure in terms of its function. It will be completely functional during this closure. And so as far as what we can do, I think I And we'll push that off just a little bit to allow that traffic management planning to occur as part of our project development. So we would evaluate things like signal timing. We would look at turn lane lengths. We would try to better understand the type of delay that would be expected based on the additional traffic that would come in as part of the project. But I would like to hold off on answering the question on what we would do until we actually kind of go through that engineering analysis of that traffic management planning.
Would you be the representative then?
I am, I'm the project manager on the project, yep, we have we will have a process that'll be part of that.
So we can have you come back.
Absolutely, I would expect to come back to provide an update on the project and also the traffic impacts and any mitigation that would be required for that.
The only other comment I'd like to make, Mayor, is if, I know this breaks with protocol, but if we have some residents who have some quick questions for Dimitri, it'd be nice if we could have them the opportunity to at least ask him.
We'll see if we get to that point, so, thank you, Troy. Myself, is there any consideration being made for ambulance service? Because with the bridge out of commission on Osceola, long drive for somebody in an ambulance who's in critical condition to, especially if they're going to the Osceola Medical Center, is that also, I assume, being taken into consideration?
It is,
Looking at parking ambulances at closer locations?
we're working with Franconia Township to better understand their current emergency services, and I believe any emergency services on the Minnesota side today do typically stay on the Minnesota side from the emergency standpoint. We're also gonna be
Excuse me, are you saying that the ambulance service stays on the Minnesota side and brings them to Fairview?
pending the location, my understanding, pending the emergency, typical emergency services still is maintained on the Minnesota side, depending on its location.
It is, but the ambulance transports them to the St. Croix Regional Medical Center.
Okay, I will.
In a high level, I think we have 5 trucks that we have, and so it might be something you take into consideration as far as trying to find a location for one of it's called Lakes Area EMS. I know I'm on the board of directors, and so there might be some consideration for asking us to park an ambulance in an area closer to residents that live close to that Osceola Bridge on the Minnesota side. Because my guess is they would be transported to the St. Croix Health unless they request specifically to go to Regions, or if they're a request to go to Osceola Medical Center, or if they request an airlift with like Link 3. So just something to consider.
I appreciate that comment, and I guess high level what I'll answer is, I think planning for emergency services is an important part of the project planning, especially for any duration of that bridge closure.
Yep.
And that's gonna be a priority for us, working with both Wisconsin and Minnesota.
Thank you. Ross, do you have a question?
Just one thing, I assume you're in the process of well, you have to go through Taylor's Falls, that's the bottom line, really. But do you consider part of the process like no trucks, put it that way? No semis coming through the Taylor's Falls area? Because that alone, I think would, you could send a lot more cars through if you eliminated a lot of the semis. So was that part of the process, or?
I think the way I could answer that now, and I'm gonna take that question back as well, is US 8 is an interstate highway that's a public roadway, and trucks are allowed on that roadway. And MnDOT, I don't believe, can simply ban trucks from utilizing Interstate Highway 8.
Can't just detour them, huh?
I don't know that we have that much power,
You could recommend.
but I'm also gonna double check that I answered that correctly.
Sure.
Okay, anything else, Ross?
No, that's
Okay, then another question, or last one I have for you, Dimitri, is would you entertain some questions from residents that are here, or are you uncomfortable doing so?
Absolutely,
I don't wanna put you on the spot.
this project generated a lot of questions, and I'm happy to answer anyone that has any.
Good, thank you. So if anybody in the audience, you do a little hand raised, and I'll certainly, Dimitri will take the questions that you have. Thank you for doing that, Dimitri. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot, so. Anybody have questions? Kevin Schuman, yes, go ahead, Kevin.
One thing you've mentioned several times, the signal light on Highway 8 that, handles the traffic well. But also the stop sign at First Street is greatly impacted by that. And we really need help managing that intersection onto Highway 9, onto Highway 8.
Any other questions for Dimitri? Excellent. Thank you very much for your time. Dimitri, I think the council has finished everything. Again, we'll welcome you back in the future. Either you'll be invited, or if you think it's a good time to come back, just let somebody know for staff.
Thank you for having me out, thank you for the questions, thank you very
Thank
much.
you, sir. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you don't have to. You can leave, we're not insulted.
I will note, we do have a very good project website for those that are interested in continuing for updates on the project. Not only can you visit the website, you can also sign up for an email update where as we make progress, we'll provide an update to anyone that signed up on the website, and we'll also provide updates when the next open house is. So if you'd like to listen in, we'll likely have something virtual and in person so anyone can attend. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good, and I will encourage the next administration, if you're ever curious, invite them back. Don't hesitate. Okay, I'm on to the next item on the agenda. This is the Chisago Lakes Area Foundation Grant Opportunity. It's the big deal. And Larry, it's all yours.
Okay, so this does have to do with the Chisago Lakes Area Foundation grant opportunity called the Big Deal. A presentation was made to the City Council and the public on the July 11th council meeting by Loretta Anderson, detailing the program, which has up to $10,000 grant for projects that make our community better. There are some guidelines to the program, to the projects, and I'll read them off to you. The project should enhance quality of life, leave a lasting impact, build community pride, strengthen community connections, enrich the lives of all residents, and fill an unmet need. So the application deadline was September the 1st. Due to many great things happening in my own family and a very busy August work-wise, the deadline caught up to me. And so I went ahead and submitted an application for the projects, but protocol says that, you know, before we pursue any grant opportunities, we bring them to the City Council for approval. This was such a great opportunity for the city that I went ahead and presented without council approval. So what I'm asking for tonight is, after the fact, council to approve the submission for the grant request. And I included 3 projects in the grant submission. The first being our peony garden at Cherry Hill. We need additional funding for that to move the project along. I asked for additional $1,000 out of this grant opportunity. The second portion, the second aspect of the grant submission was for the big yellow chair down at the Park Underpass. The yellow chair needs a facelift, and in addition to a coat of yellow paint, I thought it would be a great idea to add graphics or a mural promoting downtown Taylor's Falls and all of its businesses. The third, and I asked for a grant for $2,000. And the third portion of the submission has to do with our prairie restoration project up at Heritage Park. We do need some additional funding to move that project along. Specifically this fall, we need to do a controlled burn. So I asked for an additional $5,000 to help mobilize the volunteer fire department to come and do the controlled burn. We'll see where all this goes, but I thought it was be a great benefit to the city if we could get at least some of this grant money that's offered. So tonight I'm asking for approval to, after the fact, to submit the grant, to submit to the grant for the big deal, $10,000.
Okay, Larry, so my first question is it a matching grant?
No.
Okay, so it's all grant dollars they give to us, cost the city nothing?
Correct.
Okay, and just so council knows about it, I was aware of it. Larry called me and said, grant deadline is here, what should I do? And I said, I think you should submit it. You come to the council and say, this is what we've done, this is what it's gonna do for our city. Doesn't cost the city a penny, didn't hurt us financially. So I'm in favor of this. Thank you for submitting it. I know it took a lot of your time, Larry. So right down the line, Ross, comments on this?
No, I think they're great projects. All of them improve the quality of the city, looks and everything else, so I'm all in favor of it.
Thank you. Troy, comments?
Yes, thank you to Larry for stepping up and taking control of this. This was a great offer by Loretta, I think, and it's good to have one of our commissions or council members take advantage of it, so it's great.
Very good, thank you, Troy. Larry, whether we,
I believe it's October the 1st.
okay, so it's coming up. Excellent. So it sounds like everybody's in favor of this. I'll call for a motion then to approve the request. It comes from Councilmember Larry Julie Kine. It is for the submittal of the Big Deal Grant. It is in the amount of $8,000. It is $1,000 for Cherry Hill, $2,000 for the Big Yellow Chair, and $5,000 for the Heritage Park restoration. So do I have a motion to approve this request?
So moved.
By Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
By Troy, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And we're on to the next item on the agenda. This is a resolution. This is our 2023 budget and tax levy that's payable in 2023. We actually have had 3 meetings, finance meetings, held in the council chambers because we had residents that were here for all 3 meetings, as a matter of fact. If you take a look at this, the total tax levy is $692,635. That is up approximately 0.5%. From what I can tell, and I've talked to Bridget Conrad, our auditor from the county, our tax capacity has increased substantially. So that means after discussing all this and really at our finance meeting saying this looks like a good thing, we just have to approve the resolution and keep in mind that the tax rate will now drop to 0.5240. And as I look back over all the information that I have that dates all the way back to 1999, that is the lowest tax rate since before 1999, which it held at about 56%. So I'm comfortable with the budget. I'll check and see how everybody else feels. Troy, comments on the budget?
No comments at this point.
Okay, good. Larry?
Well, you know, the budget process is very thorough, and it's, you know, we spend, you know, a lot of time, you know, making sure that all of our bases are covered, all the funds are funded properly, and all of our projects are taken care of, which is, you know, what we've done again this year. So that's my comment, and I'm in favor of the motion.
Okay, so Ross, comments?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time, you know, scouring through the budget, comparing to prior years to make sure that every line item isn't way out of whack, so. So anyway, we've come up with good, honest numbers. I believe they're, you know, ways of cutting costs for the city, but yet, actually, we're doing improvements also. So, yeah, I'm in favor of the budget we have right now.
Okay.
Proposing.
So on the next page is the resolution 220901. Does the verbiage look okay? The information look correct? With that then, I will call for a motion to approve resolution 220901, approving the proposed 2023 budget and tax levy payable in 2023. And note for the record that that will put our tax rate at 0.524%. So motion to approve.
So moved.
By Larry, do I have a second?
Second.
By Ross, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And I'm on to the next item. This is just a brief one. This is the Truth in Taxation hearing. And we are required to hold a Truth in Taxation hearing. It gives the residents the opportunity to step up and voice their comments in favor, opposed, or just neutral about the 2023 budget. We have historically for the last 20 years set that meeting for the first meeting in December, which is the second Monday, which is the 12th of December. We hold the public hearing first, we let the residents comment, then we continue into our normal meeting. So my question is everybody comfortable setting the date of the hearing for December 12th? Everybody's okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Simple one, I'll call for a motion to set December 12th of 2022 as the date for our proposed Truth in Taxation public hearing. So motion to approve?
So moved.
By Larry, second by Ross. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're into the next item on the agenda. This is what Troy requested. This is a discussion on our long-term debt. He provided us with some very good information, a nice chart. Good information. It all comes from the Taylor's Falls audit reports from 2010 till 2021. So Troy, why don't you walk us through this?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I do have some extra charts available if people want to look at them later. I guess the first thing I wanted to point out is that all this data goes till, this is a snapshot of the debt for the city of Taylor's Falls, and the last snapshot would be 2021. This does not include interest. So, yeah, these are just a snapshot of the different balances and their accrual rates. Right now, at 2021, we have $1,596,000 in debt, and that's long-term. That's long-term debt. I do want to give the council the opportunity to dispute anything, correct anything, point anything out that they think needs to be, should be addressed or corrected, something that I might have calculated incorrectly or anything like that.
Oh, it's fine.
Any suggestions for the incoming administration on any of these?
Oh, absolutely. I would recommend that the current administration, or the next administration, make sure that they levy in a way that it makes all the payment on these, just like we have been doing for the last 18, 15, 16 years. So that's my recommendation. I followed everything through. It's all good information.
Oh, well, great. Thank you. That's good. I appreciate it. I appreciate it getting in the packet and being able to get out to the public as well.
Sure. Yep.
One thing I wanted to ask, and I guess I will go forward, and so we don't take too much more time, I will go forward and ask the auditor some questions that I have about the 2011A and 2014A. I think Ross mentioned that one of this 2014A was kind of a pass-through. Was that something you suggested? Because I did find in the audit, it's a conduit debt obligation.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, who is making the payment on that one? This is for the lodge, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yep.
And would this be Samaritan bought the property, or who's making the payment on this one?
Sure, I can happy to explain this to you. The property was actually generously donated by the Berg family,
Mhm.
and their goal was the assisted living facility based on their family's experience. They gave the property to Good Samaritan. We worked as a city with Good Samaritan and the Berg family to make all of this happen. So what happened was the city of Taylor's Falls actually sold GEO bonds, which you've got listed here. Those GEO bonds, they will mature in the year 2043, long ways out there. Hopefully we're all still on the planet Earth here, but long ways out. But what we did was we sold GEO bonds so that that facility could be built. We set up a TIF district. Normally when you establish a TIF district, all the tax dollars from the city, the county, and the school board actually go to the owner of the property, and they can use them as what they see appropriate. What we did was we set it up contractually, so that way the TIF dollars, when the taxes are paid to the dollars, the city captures the tax dollars and we make the bond payment. So we don't have to worry about defaulting on the mortgage, not that we think they would do so. But the TIF dollars from the taxes, because it's an assisted living facility, pays us slightly more than enough money to make the GEO bond payment. And it'll continue that way ideally until the year 2043. The facility is paid off, and whoever runs it and owns it, it's all theirs free and clear. We did not have to raise property taxes when we did that. As a matter of fact, from 2014 to 2015, the tax rate actually dropped a little over 1.7%. And the reason why, it's new revenue. We're spending more money, but we're taking in more money than what we're spending.
So there's no opportunity for default, but
They could default, but then if they do, who owns the building? The bank? Who pays the property taxes? The bank.
well, my question would be who pays the loan?
We are making the payments on the loan.
Right. okay.
And who owns the building? That's who pays us the property taxes. Yep.
Good, thank you everybody for taking the time to go over this.
Yep, absolutely. Any other questions on
This
this?
is very informative, and I hope it'll be helpful.
Good. It's just one thing, so I'm gonna kind of walk council through also, and that's, if you look at that blue line on the top, that actually shows the long-term debt. And way back in 2010, you'll see that in 2011, we took an increase. And the reason for it was we built a business park. Well, why did we build a business park? Well, because we bought the land from Xcel Energy. And when we did that, we annexed in not only our property, but the Lawrence Creek substation. Now, people would say, why would you do that? The answer is that Lawrence Creek substation pays a substantial amount of taxes based on the value of the equipment that's out there, the transformers. And so the Xcel Energy agreed to the annexation, we brought the entire thing in. So we set it up to make payments on that business park, which is now paid off, by the way, and we used the taxes generated by the Xcel Energy substation to pay the payment on not only the land, but the entire infrastructure. So if you look at it, the tax rate dropped almost 2% that year because we took in new revenue from Xcel Energy. We actually worked with the county for that as well, using their tax dollars to put in the infrastructure for the business park. So if you move from the business park to the lodges at Taylor's Falls, which is a fabulous building, you can see that that has actually reduced every single year, and that this council has reduced that long-term debt from $3 million to about $1.6 million in 7 years. We brought the long-term debt down by $1.4 million in 7 years. If you continue on the same track as we have been levying for, in the year 2026, the well will be paid off. In the year 2028, the city well will be paid, the city well will be paid off, the city hall will be paid off. So all the other lines, which are very helpful, the yellow line that's coming down continually, that's the city hall. That'll pay off in 2028. So at the end of 2028, the city's in really very good shape. You're not making any payments in 2026 for the well. You're not making any payments for the city hall in 2028. That little $10 charge that is on your water bill every time you receive it, that's gone. Because the city set that up in a way that once the well is paid for, that $10 has to come off. Does not allow the city the opportunity to capture the money and just keep it. So, great information. If anybody has any questions on that, always give me a phone call. I'm certainly open. I'm very pleased with the fact that, this council has done a very good job of reducing the tax rate every year since that period of time. So, okay, I'm on to the next item. This is a request from Public Works. This used to be Ross and Larry. This is myself and Mary. This request comes from Mike Chris. He's our Public Works Superintendent, as you know. They're simply asking to go to the Snowplow Expo. It's in St. Cloud. They've attended it every year for the last probably 20 plus years. It's $30 per person, it's $60. If you said this is pretty menial, the answer is yes it is, but all training requests have to come before the city council. So, Ross, as the former Public Works liaison, do you have comments on this?
No, like I say, they've done it every year. They take classes up there. It's not just a big get together. But so they do classes, do training on new snow plowing techniques, which is amazing. And a lot of camaraderie too, discussing other issues with other maintenance people from other towns. So anyway, it's very inexpensive for what we get out of it.
Very good, thank you, Ross. Larry, comments?
Well, plowing the streets is a very important aspect of our winter. And so it's best that the guys are up to date on all the new technology, all the best ways to keep the streets clear and safe for our residents and visitors and the school children.
Very good. And Ross, do you happen to know if they compete in the, expo? As far as a truck driver competing, they have a contest.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of them competing in that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I haven't either. Comments on this, Troy? You
No
okay with this?
comments, all in favor.
Perfect. So I'll call for a motion then to approve the request. It comes from our Public Works Superintendent, Mike Chris. The purpose is for him and Paul Stanger to attend the Snowplow Expo. It is located in St. Cloud, Minnesota. It is October 5th. It is at a cost of $60 total for both, and it is paid for from our Public Works Training Fund. So motion to that effect.
So moved.
By Larry, I have a second.
I'll second.
By Troy, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we're on to the second to the last item here. We're looking at additional First Street sidewalk costs. And I know that this started a few years ago with Ross and Larry as far as sidewalk projects coming up First Street. So I'll go ahead and let Ross start with this unless he wants to pass it to Larry. Looks like we got some additional work that needs to be done.
Yeah, there's additional cost up in this upper section here. The new railing was gonna be put on little piers, I guess, alongside of it. When they started digging it out, they discovered that the old footings for the old footings for the sidewalk are kind of intermingled or poured right into the retaining wall. So there's no way to get them out without destroying the retaining wall and some of the drainage. So they've come up with the solution is they're just gonna make the sidewalk wider, literally pour over the the piers that are down in the ground right now, and the new railing will bolt right down to the sidewalk. So you'll gain on the sidewalk, you'll lose a little bit for where the railing's gonna be, but that was the simplest solution for it. And then also for the lower two sections of railing, same thing, rather than pouring in little bollards to bolt them to, it was simpler just to add another 12 inches of concrete, make the sidewalk wider, and then bolt the railing down to that. So the additional cost is more concrete, a little bit more work, to solve the situation.
Gotta be a lot of concrete for what I'm looking at dollars
Well,
wise.
I know, but it's, I forget, 600 feet or something like that. It's a
Yeah.
long way that they've gotta, pour more concrete and a lot more work, so.
Yep. I agree.
But either way, when they get done, they'll have I think a better sidewalk. It'll be a little wider, even minus the railings. Should be in there for the long term. I think that the one that's there right now must have been there about 25 years or so.
Yep. It's old, it's pretty rotted off in certain areas,
Yeah,
so.
it's,
And it is a little steeper than 2 feet deep, so
Yeah.
it's a steep area up there by that. I'll let you be the one who says what this is gonna cost and where it's gonna come from. Cause I don't think we have a choice, I think we have to do this, the sidewalk's all ripped out.
Yep.
So, you can tell us the dollar amount.
anyway, the total cost, 642 feet, of steel railing removed and repoured, rate for new railing is
Yeah, that's it.
$16,884.46. So yes, it is a lot of money. We'll probably just have to take it out of the general fund. But I mean, it's a long-term repair that's, 25 years or more, so it's going into the future.
Gotta be done. Unfortunately, they discovered something when they started tearing into it, so. Comments on this, Larry?
Well, it's important that we don't destroy the retaining wall, because that holds the whole sidewalk up. And so unfortunately, that fix is expensive. The end result will be a terrific sidewalk and a good secure handrail that will last quite a while. So, it's just one of those times where, a repair is necessary and the city has to bite the bullet and do it.
Thank you, Larry. Troy, comments?
Yes, I mentioned this before, I'm concerned about the amount of money we're spending towards the end of administration. The other thing is, I appreciate Lawrence Creek, they do excellent work, and I know Jeremy very well. And I see that as a matter of expediency, since they were already working on the sidewalk, which cost $100,000 already, they were there and they could work on it. But I do think we do need to start getting into the practice of getting multiple bids for these jobs. We have some competition and we understand that we're making the best financial responsibility for our citizens. So I will be opposed to this.
Okay, thank you, Troy. And I agree with getting more bids. I hope the next administration is a lot more successful than what we've been. The problem with getting bids is that our jobs are so small. They're huge to us, but they're small to other cities and contractors, that it's difficult to get contractors to actually bid on these projects. So in the past, we used to get 5 or 6 bids on paving, 5 or 6 bids on sidewalks, and it's difficult. So if people have more names, other people, bring them to us, because Mike and Ross and Larry reach out to everybody we've worked with in the past, plus new contractors, and it's difficult getting more than one bid. I'm not too sure with this one how you would be able to go out to another contractor and say, we want you to come in and continue to work on this project now that Lawrence Creek Contracting has it all torn out, so.
Yeah, that's the fix.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but I do have confidence in Lawrence Creek. They've been very good to our city in the past. I don't think that they're gouging us, even though it's a tremendous amount of money. So with that, I know how the vote's gonna go. I'm gonna call for a motion to approve the proposal. It is from Lawrence Creek Contracting. It is in the amount of $16,884.46. It is for the additional costs that are related to completing the First Street Sidewalk project, and this amount will be paid for from our general fund. So do I have a motion to that?
So moved.
moved.
By Ross, I got a second from Larry. Further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 3-1. And we're on to the last item on the agenda, big agenda. we've got a curb stop here that needs to be fixed. This is a water curb stop. This has nothing to do with the sewer. That we'll have to look into that by the Folsom House. The curb stop is located at 578 Folsom Street. It's stuck in the on position, and Mike Chris says we can't shut it off. The resident needs to do some repairs on the water lines in the house. It's the city's curb stop, so we need to replace it. We don't have a whole lot of choice. We run into problems with curb stops usually when we try to shut them off. And when we can't, we have to have them dug up and we have to have them replaced. We have Olson Sewer, who is able to do this for us. They've been the only one to provide this bid on it because they do this type of work. It would come from our water fund, and it is $4,335.59. So I have talked to Mary Murphy about this briefly. She agrees. It's unfortunate we have to replace this curb stop. We can't just say sorry. So our recommendation is that we approve this. I'll move to Troy. Comments on this?
So the work has not been done?
Has not.
Okay, but it's stuck in the on position?
It is stuck in the on position.
No, just clarification on that.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, any other comments?
Gotta be done.
Okay, Ross?
No, need to do it.
Sounds good. I'll call for a motion then to approve the request. It is from our Public Works Superintendent, Mike Chris. It is to accept the proposal from Olson's Sewer. Purpose is to replace the curb stop at 578 Folsom Street. It is at a cost of $4,355.59, and this is paid for from our water fund. So do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
By Larry, do I have a second?
I'll second.
By Troy, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. We've hit everything on the agenda. It's a big agenda. It's 12 items. Thank you for your time. We had a nice presentation. I'm gonna go to the round table, see if anybody's got anything to share. Ross, anything?
The planning commission met a couple weeks ago. We're just discussing, well, our points of discussion were food trucks, solar farms, Airbnbs, and edible THC. It was just a discussion for a couple of hours, so we're gonna continue on and get more information from Steve Hepp and continue on, because we asked a lot of questions that he's gotta do research for us, so.
Very good. Thank you, Ross, and thank you to the planning commission for jumping on that discussion of THC as quickly as they did, so. Okay, anything else, Ross?
No, that's all I
Okay,
got.
anything new, Troy?
Not much new, just a thanks to Jake, Fire Chief, again, met with him a couple weeks ago. He's just incredibly organized. He's taking great numbers down, and it just was so much, it was very beneficial as far as the budget workshop goes.
Yep.
And then, Mayor, if you would get back to me on that Folsom House Olson Sewer
Yep.
receipt, so I can report that back.
This week.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yep, thank you. Anything else new, Larry?
Just with the Heritage Preservation Commission, we're meeting Wednesday, but nothing to report on that yet.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And as far as, we'll get answers for Diane. I've written everything down. If anybody ever needs anything from me, always reach out to me, let me know, send me an email, leave me a voice message. With that, I think we've covered it all. Long meeting, good topics. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By Larry, do I have a second?
I'll second.
By Troy, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you for your time.